When I streamed on Saturday, it was like 5 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the afternoon, which is much later than I normally would do it. This is still later, slightly, I guess, by hour, but it's not as big of a deal to me as it would be if it were pushed back as far as that time. So I just went to work yesterday and I didn't get cut up. That's the one good thing that came out of what happened. But I I was thinking about some of the stuff I said last time on the other stream, and I before we even get into it, I actually keep about 2 years ago, YouTube used to do this thing where pretty much every time I streamed, they would just demonetize me. Like I'd put the stream, have the green right when you start it, and then as it goes further and further, it would just out of nowhere say your stream has been demonetized. You can request that the advertiser, to be reviewed to see if it's advertiser friendly. And every time they would do this, I would just think to myself, because almost as far as I can tell, every time I appealed it, I was able to get it back to being monetized. But I thought to myself, isn't it crazy that this stream comes up and it's been up for maybe like a minute, 5 minutes after I complete it. And it's as though there's something in the system that just targets you. It's like this person is, whatever. So if they stream, they're probably saying something inappropriate or what, or any of that other stuff, and it just drives me nuts. Like, but I think I said before that's one of the bigger grievances I have with this site, which is that there's a lot of penny pinching, just stuff where they're trying to like make sure they can squeeze some coins out of somebody, and it's like it's already bad enough when the smaller channels don't even. I mean, I can show where like my earnings from the last week are maybe like 5 cents, 6 cents. So it's already bad enough that you don't get anything off of here, no matter how much you work or um, whatnot. But it's like they have to make it even worse by going out of their way to try and take from you the little bit of scraps that you get. Oh, what a sight! Telling you, I just I don't understand them. All I could say is there's a lot of greed. There's a lot of gimme, gimme, gimme. That's the only conclusion I can draw. But yeah, I do get tired of having to contest. They're doing that every single time I do a stream now. It's really annoying because I go out of my way to not use profanity. I guess to speak in code, on certain topics, and it's just like even in doing all of that, they're still getting you. They're still saying, "Oh, this is inappropriate. This is," and they don't even tell you what it is. They just you finish the stream, you see the yellow dollar sign, and you're like, "What? Why?" It's just this big mystery. No, there's always somebody that'll come to a stream and just start writing either weird stuff or things that aren't really don't really make sense to me. And what I noticed is that and I'm telling you, this is just how it goes. It's always somebody that I've either never seen before, or if I have seen them before, it was a long time ago. Like you can upload stuff for a year, and no video that you make will ever get them to write something on, like, throughout the entire year. But then when you do a stream, they suddenly feel so animated and want to come and write 30 comments. And you saw that with Vince 2 weeks ago. It's like he tried to say, "Oh, you have hundreds of videos, hundreds of streams." And I looked and I said, "So does every single other news channel on this website. TYT has way more videos than me. That doesn't stop them from having 5 million subscribers." I just think it's so funny how you have sites that track, the number of views people get per day, how big their channel is, just little stuff like that. And in spite of these places existing, you have this guy who's like, "Oh yeah, you can get more views if you do this, that." It's like, do you even look at analytics? I've had a 100% increase in views since last year. So I said they don't even they really just I guess what it is they look at whatever's in front of them. So if they see you doing a stream that like nobody's watching or only two people are watching, they just assume that's how every single upload or video you put up is. And let's not forget the guy that came on the stream. We were talking about jobs, and he started preaching about how if you become a dentist, you can make this amount and such time. I was like, yeah, but here's the snag. In the time that it takes you to study being a dentist, who is going to pay for your bills? What job are you going to get that will allow you to sustain yourself part that is only part time while going to school full time? Like it's one of those things where that's a strategy that works for someone that can just live off their parents or some other relative, but if you actually have to pay for things, it doesn't really pan out. And it's like he comes to this stream or this video, you have stream rather, and starts spewing all this advice that nobody asked for. And then by the end of it, admits that he lives with his parents. It's like, so you're not really in a position to try and give anybody survival advice if somebody else is footing the bill for you. Like, but again, it's like that crazy stuff where they'll come on a stream or a video and like actually think they're saying something profound, like we've never heard it before. Like I mentioned before, I used to be a college student, but guess what? It costs too damn much to keep going. Um, those that had the money wouldn't pay for it, so I was done. But to like come back years later and go, if you just got a major in this, you would be able to get it's like I can't do it if I have to also pay for things at the same time. Why the hell would I deprive myself of less hours and thereby less money chasing behind this piece of paper that some random person on the computer is telling me is going to just magically make everything better after several years of hardship? And I still can't get over. I think I did screenshot him. There was some guy that came on one of my streams, and he was talking about some job where you can make 80,000 in 6 months, and I'm like, dude. First of all, I don't believe that. But secondly, if there's truly some 80,000 in 6 month job that you can get just from training, why don't you do it yourself? Oh, Jam, I didn't even get to tell you about the developments over the last week rather. Uh, Human trafficking. Yeah, that probably is what it is. So, the period to be a write-in candidate just started on the 8th, January 8th, right? And I went up to the county clerk office, filled out the paperwork, and now I have the signature papers to be a write-in candidate. Uh, but you need 40 signatures. I went around this past. I couldn't do anything yesterday because I was working, but I went around this past Saturday trying to get some, and it's one of the more irritating experiences I've had in recent times. I mean, when you go to people's door and you say to them, you know, "Hey, I need you to sign this paper," and it's something that will take them less than 1 minute, and they just refuse. Uh, it's pretty insane. Like, I I was thinking about how it kind of reminds me of, we were talking about, like, on here, the engagement of how people just won't click the like button. Man, look, I'm telling you, I have no intention of not trying, because so here's what drives me crazy. The deadline is February 20th, which means you'd have like a whole month to just what's your no, I just explained that I needed to qualify. Um and I did get, that many, but still, I was saying that the deadline to get these is like the last week or so of February, but the primary, for some insane reason, is March 5th. Now, in the past, it's been in the summer, in June. I don't know why they moved it up so early. It's really goofy. So you have 5 weeks, 6 weeks, however many that is. Terrific. What's my pitch? I explain to them what I need. It's Yeah, what it is that moving fast. Well, this is one of the things I tried talking about before, that when you do this in larger areas, you need more time to be able to get around the place and kind of, put yourself out there. And this is that district has 800,000 people in it. So I don't think there's a realistic way to completely crisscross the whole area. You could probably go through about maybe half of it in that time, but as one person, I just don't think it's enough time to really um, be as out there as you probably could be if you had, the usual several month period. No, I know Jem's really excited for the night with his Iowa caucus. He's really thrilled. And man, look, I'm telling you, I'm trying to do FDR Part One. I've just been having stuff come up with, you know, outside external forces. So it should be out by the end of the month. That's all I can say. I'm not even kidding. All if I'm gonna look into the legality of this, but if I can do it, I will go back to every person that actually signed it and just give them like a flower or something. Just it's so nice to like be able to reward the people that actually, put in the most basic of effort. I'm serious, man. The gauntlet of excuses for why people can't do it goes all over the place. There was one guy who said he's not really into politics. There was another guy who was like, "I'm helping my mom right now." There was another guy that they didn't even open the door. They just let the animals bark at me. Spoke to me over the intercom. So there's I'm sure you will hear it all. Well, I had this one person. They said that it was like being a salesman, except in my case, the thing we're selling is free, and it's like, even with it not costing them anything except maybe a minute of their time, they just still can't do it. Yeah, and my thing is, um, you really start to see why people have the representation that they do. They just don't care. You know, um, as I explained to you earlier, that district has 800,000 people there, and in the last election, there was a halving rather. I guess you call it halving, where you cut something in, in half. There was a halving, or rather, I'll put it this way: the number of people who voted in the last election wasn't even half of the number of people that voted in the 2020 election. Now, you could say it was because it was a election year, whatever, but I'm telling you, man, to see the new person only get, it was like 88,000 votes, and the person before them had 200,000. Um, it shows you that a big part of the reason that they won was due to low voter turnout. People just didn't care. And what I'm worried about is, because I explained to you before, it's a jungle primary. So if you're a Democrat, you don't have to come in first place, you just have to come in second, or first rather. But what I'm worried about is, can can you realistically believe that you can get thousands of people, even if you give them the instructions, even if you give them, because I would do flyers that like have my name on there and then instructions on how to write it in. Um, could you realistically get thousands to write your name in? I think you could realistically get thousands to vote, right? If the name's already there, but to go that extra step, I don't know. But yeah, I was feeling pretty discouraged after Saturday. Not enough to just be like, I'm gonna completely throw in the towel, because like I said, this place is huge, whole bunch of streets and neighborhoods. And I did see something that was kind of disturbing to me, but I'm not gonna say it because I don't want to get in trouble with YouTube. So uh all I can say is there's a whole other area that I'm very interested in going to and seeing what the results are over there. Mm. Things are always much more difficult than they need to be, that's for sure. Do your best and good luck. I mean, hey, the worst people can say is no, right? I just wish the only two things I wish were different, like truly wish were different, were I wish the primary was in June, the actual date of the election, and I wish that we hadn't missed the filing period to actually be on the ballot. I wish those two things were different, but it is what it is. I do believe those would have helped significantly. Not even kidding. The people that actually spoke to me, they acted like I was a presidential candidate. Like they didn't even like. One man talked about some local stuff a little bit, and then he started speaking about Kennedy and Trump and and then this other person, they pivoted to. They asked me what my positions were, which I was surprised by that, even at that point, because it just kept being the same old slam the door in your face or not answer thing. Um, but I was really surprised by just how little people were interested in local issues. Like that's why I said I really you really do start to see how these cretins like get in office and just stay there, because so many people are just apathetic. They do not care. Like they will have someone run a train over their district and like not even think twice about it. Yeah, I've had a lot of people call me stupid at various points. I guess I have to be stupid to want to get involved with this. I know Jem is very furious with me. He was expecting his FDR documentary. He thought that halfway through the month we would be talking about part two. It's coming, man. I just have to get a set time to edit this stuff and write the scripts and whatnot. Uh, Johnson Part Five is actually the script for that might be halfway, maybe a third of the way through. Um, so these things are getting made. They're just it's just hard to do all this other stuff. Oh, mm. We all have a lot going on. Man, I'm telling you, like after Friday, I was like, I thought to myself, to go through a whole a whole neighborhood, like a whole block of a neighborhood where you start from the first house and you go all the way to the last one, and just that's incredible. But that's why I said I really do sometimes feel like I live in the twilight zone. Like when you have something that in your head is like, oh, people will do this. I mean, it's so simple, right? And then you actually see it and you're like, okay, well, never mind. Jam, look, I know you haven't felt good Ay, ay, ay. Oh. I was thinking about this anecdote from from yesterday where uh, at my job they have this freezer where they're really like angry if people put these like position. Yeah, but they get very upset when you put things in a certain way, uh, and it's so stupid to me because the freezer isn't even that big. So at most you would walk just maybe 20 yards further to grab something. And the other night I call myself being preemptive, so I moved the stuff that they wanted that I had been told they wanted on the left from right to left. So I put it where it had been the on the other nights. And one of the managers was like, "Oh, we have to have this stuff over on this side at a certain time." And I'm like, "What in the world?" Because as far as I can tell, they always want the um the stuff that's in there to go to be on the left and whatever you bring later on to be on the right. So to be told that you need to do this, but only at a certain portion of the it became too confusing. That's the kind of stuff that just because really to me it feels like a way of getting someone in trouble over something that they probably wouldn't do if you at least explained it to them. Um, but they don't really seem to care. It's whatever to them because they're not the one that is going to have to get chewed out for putting something in the wrong place. I even had one of my coworkers who had placed something inside this water, and I didn't think anything of it because I had seen it placed there before, and there was no problem. But then when that same manager saw that, got upset at me, told me, "Oh, you need to do this, do." And I turned to him and I said, "Hey, I got in trouble for what you did." Um, and he was telling me as he was leaving, like, "Hey, don't worry about it. You're trying as hard as you can." But God, I'm telling you, sometimes when you work at these places, and I mean this with complete sincerity, you can do 100 things right, and if you do one thing wrong, they will speak to you as if you have killed someone. Like, I'm not even trying to be funny. There's 100 different ways to get in trouble up there. If the floor gets too wet, oh, uh, I'm not even kidding. There was a night about maybe the last 2 or 3 times I came there. I arrived and the floor was wet, and there were these like different, like gurneys and stuff people would pull something with, right? And when I get there, the manager, the same one that, acts so villainous, is like, "Can you sweep up this floor? I almost slipped." And I thought to myself, well, hell, if I just got here and the floor was like that before I even came and there's stuff in the way, damn, like also if, we're supposed to be wearing slip resistant shoes, so uh you would think that that wouldn't be a problem, or there wouldn't be a need to fall or to trip or to get lost or whatever, but I guess not. All I can say is it's hard to do this stuff. It really is. Like at every turn with these jobs, they just look for something. And it's so fascinating seeing how you'll have one manager who's like really calm and explain things and it's kind of like reassuring, and then you'll have another one who's just like breathing down your neck. You better do this way. Because like I said, it truly is never enough. I really thought when I went in that freezer and moved that stuff, as heavy as it was, and it is heavy. We're talking about containers with food that has a lot of water in it, that sometimes when you slide it over, it's not easy because they don't adjust the planks that they're on to be even. So you can't just like push it or pull it to the side. You have to, in many cases, grab them one by one to even make sure that nothing falls over or slips and spills or and whatnot. But I thought to myself, isn't it crazy that you have this thing that they want you to do, which is to have this stuff positioned a certain way. And when you do that preemptively, when you do it before, you know, you would normally do it or before the end of the night, we're not supposed to have this on this side. I'm like, God. So I said, you just can't win. I feel like a complete buffoon every time I try to do something up there that I think will get in the good graces of the other people that work. That's why I always say, like, when you get fired from one of these places, don't be surprised because they're quick to get rid of anybody that's not a manager. Those are only people who are probably safe from getting terminated over any reason, any day of the week. And no matter how many people say, "Oh, you're doing a good job," I always remember that's just a thing that they say. Because I remember when I was working for the retailer 2 years ago, and I all the smoke that they were blowing up my behind, talking about, "Oh, welcome to the team," and you know, uh, "Good job on this." Da, 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 da. And no matter how much they tell you that, it doesn't mean anything. You're still on the chopping block. You're still inclined to be gotten rid of at any minute of the day, any day of the week. Doesn't matter. But yeah, I've been with that place now for what is technically approaching 2 months because it was like the latter part of November when I started. So um they'll probably get rid of me. I'm gonna say by the either the midpoint or the end of February. Um, yeah, I don't think they're gonna keep me that much longer. It'll probably be within the next month because it's usually the probation period is 3 months. So um, if I'm still there by the start of March or the midway point of March, I'll be very surprised. That's why I said you can't get excited for anything anymore. Like, not even kidding, being hired is like the same effect as not having a job because it's like, oh yeah, well, I know they're going to just throw me away at some point, inevitably. No matter how hard you work, no matter how many hours you take. When I was at that retailer, they were using me a lot. I was there. I remember one Sunday from like 12 in the afternoon to damn near 9:30 at night. Mm. So they're real serious about using people when they want them. But like I said, even in giving you all those hours, they still don't actually care about keeping you as an employee or anything. They'll just throw you away. think I'm kidding. Like, I don't even call myself a psychiatrist, but I would really say I have PTSD from these jobs. Like, when you get complimented, it means nothing. When you get hired, it's like a hollow point of celebration. Like, I only was slightly excited to get hired at this place because it had been, months of nothing, just drive here, drive there, do this interview, and no results were being yielded. So that was a big part of my frustration. I see that Jem left after a while. I can't say I blame him. I did go for a bit. Not that I wanted to. Trust me, I really did not want to in that scenario. Oh man. I'm here listening. I'm telling you, man, it's hard to be employed somewhere and like actually believe they want you. I have to multitask. Oh, me too. I don't uh I don't bemoan you for having other tasks or things to do. But no, what I'm hoping to do today is you know, pick it back up again, but in a different area probably. It's hard. All you can do is show up when they need you, and I do. Believe me, I've never missed a single day of work ever, even when I feel like trash. There was actually one night, about a month ago, where I was in the line to get something to eat, and I started feeling like extremely. I don't know what it was. I still have no idea because I felt better after I went to the restroom, but I started feeling really lightheaded, like almost if I could just imagine myself sweating, and it was like getting hard to stand. To where right after I ordered my thing and paid for it, I went to the restroom and just had to sit down for a little bit, and I don't know what that was, but you get my point that even at my sickest, I still will come in and do what is asked of me and whatnot. And that was one of the worst sickness. I think that actually does take the cake as the worst sickness I've ever had while on the clock, because I was starting to think, oh my god, if I can't get up and you know do this, what am I going to do? Just had me really nervous. I still would love to know what that was. If you are sick, they should send you home. Well, unless you have paid sick leave, then a lot of people are going to fight back the illness and still show up anyway. Man, the funniest thing to me is just how little they actually. Let me see. No, I don't. I haven't read any of that stuff or watched any of that stuff in years. Me and anime went through a nasty divorce. You would think they would send you home, but that's not on their to-do list. And again, if you're not getting paid sick leave, then there's going to be a lot of people that just stay at the place because when you have to fight between your I mean, we talked before about how many people are just like on the brink, like the utter desperation where even if you're not feeling good, next time faint. We get the idea that they'll like a lot of people will put up with illness even, if it means not feeling good at all just to get that extra 16 an hour or 32 every 2 hours or whatever. Like next time faint. I'm not saying it isn't nuts, but it shows you just how desperate a lot of people are. That's why I told you that, when you made fun of me for driving 20 miles to a job, but if they're actually going to give me damn near 30 hours a week, which more than makes up for the gas, I'll go. Gas prices actually went down recently. Like it was about $5 a gallon or $5 or $6. Now I saw one place they had a gallon for 3.89. I was not making fun of you is what I'm conveying to you is in an act of utter desperation, I turned to the only place that was willing to hire me. That's generally how it goes. None of these places are my desired position. Uh, but if nowhere else is either hiring me or giving me any hours, then I'm gonna go with the one that does. So that's all I'm saying. No, I could just hear you laughing with the rest of the 422 family. You're like, he drives that far just to work somewhere. Ha 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 ha. I could see all of you giggling. You all turn into comedians. Like I said, man, if they were only giving me 5 hours a week like the other place or 8 hours a week, I would have been said to hell with it. But they actually give me a decent amount of hours. It's not full time. It's about close to 30, but usually not quite 30. But still, I'll take that over having nothing. That's why I was so disappointed that you were laughing at me. That you were just sitting there giggling and going, because it's like, Jem has been through driving an hour to get to work, and he still thought it was time to make fun of me, and I was so heartbroken. Jem said the only time he would drive over an hour for something is to go shake Nikki Haley's hand. Dude, I saw the footage of Iowa right now. It looks like just utter chaos. All that snow. I normally support people voting, but if you don't want to vote because you want to get snowed in, I don't blame you. That is insane. I keep falling asleep at the wheel. Oh, I kept falling asleep at the wheel. Yeah, I've seen because I told you my usual hours are 6 to 1. They gave me 2 to 10 yesterday, but I've been on the freeway at like 2 or 3 in the morning and seen uh like different delivery driver cars like FedEx like just speeding down or going from where, and I'm like, where, man, imagine working at this time of night. Iowa in January is snow. I see. It sure looks like it, man. 'Cause when they played those videos and they showed all the people just it's hard. They showed all the people just like with their beanies and hats on and coats and jackets and God. Mm. Well, I think she knows that, but she wants to come in second place, which I do think she has a chance of getting. Remember, this is the race for second place. So there's a realistic possibility that Trump might win every single state, and then whoever comes in second place, like, oh, look, see, I got 1 million votes all across America. She's talking about her momentum. So her strategy is lose to him by, I don't know, double digits, and then I guess beat him in New Hampshire. Jim, I already told you Iowa doesn't matter anyway. Like Cruz won Iowa in 2016. He wasn't the nominee. Huckabee won Iowa in 2008. Same thing with Santorum in 2012. They weren't the nominees. So it's really not that big of a deal. Honestly, Trump winning it probably is like more of a confirmation that he won't be the nominee than anything else. Like if I were Trump, I would hope that DeSantis would win it so he could be like, oh, see, the curse has now fallen upon you. Jim, you think I'm kidding? The last time a Republican presidential candidate won Iowa and then won the primary was Bush in 2000. He won it against McCain, and then he, ended up winning the primary. But after that, it's been loss after loss after loss. If you're the Republican and you win Iowa, there's a very good chance you will not be the nominee. It's been 3 elections back to back of the same thing. Man, I remember Santorum when he was like getting floated as this big contender in 2016 because Romney was out of the way and so was Gingrich, and then he ran and like got 2% or didn't even like make it to Iowa at that time. Like you almost would forget he ran again. So now he just sits on CNN or whatever other news show he's on. I mean, you can laugh at him, but he was able to win a state, which is something a lot of these other candidates can't do. So I'm telling you, man, this is going to be such an insane couple of weeks when you just look at the trajectory of this race, where they really are competing for second place. Like if you listen to Ramaswamy, he makes it sound like all the polls were just entirely off by like 500%. He's going to come in this big surprise second place. It's goofy, man. He needs to just accept there's only room for one billionaire, and it's the one that's already been in the Oval Office. I really think if DeSantis comes in third place, he's probably going to suspend his campaign like tonight or before New Hampshire, like at some point in the next week, because he invested more time in Iowa than anyone else, and it doesn't make any sense to continue if you can't win the one state that you were pouring all of your resources into. They always do a little weird stuff. Oh, dude, like who has the time to even do that? I don't like your camera. Okay. You don't have to watch it if it's so bad. I won't shed any tears. I won't I won't cry in the night. Oh no. Angelos doesn't like my camera. I don't care. Because like I said, even if you get a higher quality one, that guy is still not gonna watch you anyway, so it doesn't matter. Jim, I don't like your username. So because I don't like your username, I expect you to change it for me. I don't like your computer, so because I don't like your computer, I expect you to go and buy a whole new system just for me. That's what I thought was funny. It's like, who has the resources to even make improvements based off of that type of stuff? It's not even that, dude. It's just like, do they really think that matters? Like if Megumi or Akatsuki Merchant came and said, "Look, man, I just don't like your camera because I can barely see you. I can't hear you." Maybe then I would go, "Oh man, I need to do." But it's like these are people that will show up. You've never seen them before. You'll never see them again. And it doesn't matter if you have a bad camera, an HD camera. Dude, on my camera on my phone was like 1080p. I don't know if you remember, Jem, when I was like doing the videos off the phone. That thing was crisp. The only part of it that wasn't that great was the audio. So like it's a trade-off. You either get better audio with lesser quality camera or better camera quality camera, but with worse audio. And even with having a better quality camera, they still didn't watch. So it doesn't matter. I just find that hilarious. Like they really make it sound as if, oh, just do this for me, please. And they all talk the same. They all insist on calling me their bro. Like, if I found that I was related to one of them, I think I would probably drink some bleach. Tell you, it's funny just watching the fake terms of endearment. They all are experts, yeah. They're all so brilliant, and yet you've never heard of any of these people. Fascinating. You would think if they're such geniuses on what to do to become successful on this site, they would have large channels themselves. But like I said, you'll never see Secular Talk or Jimmy Dore or Status Coup or TYT or Majority Report come in my comments going, your channel would be so much better if you had this type of camera and lighting and got a script and etc. None of them would do that because they're too busy trying to actually make something of themselves. But these little bottom feeders, man, they're always around. Dude, they complain about everything. Like, I still can't get over that weird guy that came to the stream talking about my cross. It's like, imagine if what's a good example? I mean, like, dude, it's just weird. It's just people have nothing to contribute to the actual conversation. They just write stupid stuff. That's all there is to it. He might as well have been because he was reacting to it like it was really bothering him. Even though the way vampires are supposed to work is that when you're in front of them and you have the cross, it hurts them or it doesn't. It messes with them. But in this case, it's like, oh, I'm watching a stream and somebody's wearing one. Ugh. Ay ay ay. Really just can't win with this stuff, I tell you. Dude, I'm telling you, I thought those guys were gone, and they mostly have been gone. Uh, like I don't know what happened. It was around a year ago that they just stopped showing up, which they weren't missed. But it's like, God, get lost. Nobody misses you. Nobody wants to read what you write because it's worthless. So I guess they've decided after a year long hiatus to come back and write some more stupid stuff. Terrific. But yeah, like I was saying, Iowa is do or die for it's just like Karl Rove said for DeSantis. If he can't win there, time to get out. Dude, I'm just imagining the video on his campaign. Like got in later than he should have, had to keep resetting because it was just floundering. And you know what it is? Like a lot of times people can be effective legislators, right? Like they can maybe get something done as a congressman or as a senator, but as a presidential candidate, there's just nothing there. Like he has hiccups I've never even seen before where they were talking about like he does this thing where when he smiles, he like forgets to close his mouth. So he kind of like does like a kind of a thumping effect. And um when he's talking, he tries to not sound as if he's like it's weird. Oh, and then the high heels, the boots. Which, by the way, he's actually not the first one to do that. I know Rubio did the same thing, and it's even crazier because it's like Rubio was either 5'9" or 5'10", so like he's either average male height or slightly taller, but because he wants to, I guess, be as tall as Trump or some other person, he has to put on these boots to make himself look taller. And like I said, I wouldn't even care. It's just that it's funny to see DeSantis do the exact same thing. Like when they're like only 5'9" or 5'10", they put on some cowboy boots to give himself an extra inch. I'm not even kidding. Like when that story surfaced about DeSantis wearing the shoes that like make him slightly taller with the big heel, I instantly thought back to Rubio, and I was like, so I guess in Florida they just have politicians that have this like weird height complex, and instead of just because like I said, people don't care, man. It's stupid stuff. But like instead of just owning up to the fact that they're not as tall as they probably would like to be, uh, they have to put on the boots. And it's funny because the whole thing with conservatives is, oh, we're for traditional family values and all this new woke trash needs to die. It's like you guys have men wearing, call it what it is, high heels. Like It doesn't get any more progressive than that, I guess. Um, I could have sworn Truman was average height. Let me see. Uh, I'm glad you brought him up. I still want to do a documentary on him. It would be easier than Roosevelt because he actually has like, yeah, Truman wasn't short. He was 5'9". Yeah, he and Carter are the same height, 5'9". And generally speaking, most modern American presidents are pretty tall. I remember that the older Bush and FDR were both 6'2", and Trump was as well. But like I said, 5'9" is not short. That's average male height. It's funny, we're actually, this is his day where we get off, but if anything, King was kind of, well, not that short, but he was like, I think 5'8". Oh, 5'7", okay. Yeah, because I remember you could see it in a lot of the photos. Yeah, Lincoln was the tallest president ever, 6'4". Looking down on the Southerners. I mean, hey, they were looking down on their on those that they oppress. So I think it's pretty fair for them to get the same kind of treatment. Well, if he had served out a full second term, uh, Reconstruction would have been very different because you wouldn't have had Johnson, who was very much opposed to any attempts to give blacks more rights. And that would also mean that Congress probably wouldn't have been as strong as they were because one of the reasons a lot of those measures were able to pass because of the radical Republicans in Congress like Thaddeus Stevens and Charles Sumter. So if Lincoln is there, Congress probably isn't going to be as strong. They'll probably still fight for the same policies and you might get more advancements, but in the long term, Congress it'll take something else for them to become as empowered as they were after the fights they had with Johnson. Um, God, it's hard. It's difficult to say what all entirely would happen. Well, I'm saying that Reconstruction would have been very different if there was a commander in chief who was sympathetic to the plight of blacks as opposed to one who completely was against anything having to do with them. But it's just like with King, it's like if he hadn't have been killed, he probably wouldn't be as well remembered, which is a disgusting thing to say, but it's the truth. Like we have an obsession with martyrdom, and you know, instead they pandered to the losers, and the country is still healing. Well, it makes sense. I mean, Johnson was a Southerner. He was from Tennessee, and even though his people had been conquered, they were still his people. So his kinship with them allowed him to be more lenient than Lincoln might have been. Mm. Pander to the losers. No other country celebrates the losers of a civil war. Well, the U.S. is different from a lot of other countries, which is not me praising us. It's just me telling the truth. Like we're not like a lot of other regions. By the way, I actually had a well, I'm not gonna risk it because I'm not trying to have another showdown over here. Let me see. This gives license to a lot of revisionist history. Well, yeah, because they can say, "See, they let us back in because they felt that there was something to what we said." I tell you, that's one of the reasons why I hate the push to get rid of the education department because when you don't have a national educational standards, it allows for these different states to pretty much pick and choose whatever they decide to instruct the kids in. I mean, you could easily, in getting rid of the education department, have teachers in Mississippi preaching that the South was right in the Civil War. Hell, if you go to the Jefferson Davis Presidential Library in that exact same state, they have literature, the unquotable Lincoln. They have all types of different things there that indicate that they're pro South, Confederate flags and whatnot. I mean, rip those losers those loser flags down. You don't think it's crazy that you can just like it took maybe the last 10 years to get rid of some of these monuments. Like they had an image of the president of the traitor country up for several decades, multiple decades, until they finally were like, okay, get rid of this. Traitor. Man, it's really sad, I tell you. Traitors in plain sight. And they people don't care either. They still celebrate them. You know that Christie actually did an interview with The View where he said he compared Trump to Jefferson Davis, and he said at least Jefferson Davis had some class. And look, I know that we tried to be nice to him. I tried to because he was from your home state of New Jersey. But you understand where it's like really disgusting to describe the leader of the country that was involved in the deadliest domestic conflict in American history as having some class in comparison. Like Trump doesn't have any class, but to pretend as if he that Davis was somehow better or had more redeeming qualities, I just thought it was so disgusting. And like they didn't even push back on him for saying that on The View. I saw the Stonewall Monument back in the day. I was like, this is the problem people are clueless about. They don't even know who. Oh yeah, I asked this one. Well, first of all, people barely even know anything about the Civil War. Like they're like, oh, it was between North and South. Like, yeah, but what was it over? Who were the opposing important figures on both sides? A lot of them literally, if you ask them who was the commander in chief of the Confederate States of America, they couldn't even tell you. Yeah, states' rights. Remember, according to Haley, it was about freedom. Dude, could you imagine if I was like running for the Republican nomination for president and they asked me what was the cause of the Civil War? And I'm like, well, what do you think it was about? I think it was about freedom. And, you know, are we going to have these rights or those rights? Trying so hard to keep that Southern vote, man. It's crazy. Ah, couldn't be me. I'm not even joking. If I were like a perennial candidate, I would run for the Republican nomination just as like a gag where you run and you don't expect to win or anything, but just like you outline to them, you're like, hey, so you guys say you don't like socialism, but why do you have socialism for the rich? Why are they paying less in taxes than people who don't even have a damn tenth of the money that they do? People owning people, crime against humanity. Well, there is one channel that found a way to talk trash about Lincoln and FDR, but put Washington as one of the top 10 presidents. And I was like, you're not going to tell me, like, I know with Roosevelt, he gets criticized for the internment of Japanese Americans during, World War II. And I know with Lincoln, he suspended habeas corpus, but you're not going to tell me that the slave owner was good, but those two weren't, or were not as like it's okay for the first president to have been a slave owner to have actually owned human beings, but the other two doing things is like puts them out of the top 10. I find it so interesting how Washington and Grant both have these extremely celebrated military careers, and then the other portions of their life, like the actual presidency, nobody talks about. Like I said, the only thing you need to ask people to be embarrassed as an American is who was the second president of the United States. I'm telling you, man, it is a shame. Like it is really sad. The educational standards over here are just disgusting. Yeah, but it's like I knew who Adams was when I was a kid, and like there are adults who if you ask them, the second American president, and you knew that stuff grosses me out, man. It really does. You have no idea how much. Mm. Well, you would think that would make him more memorable, but I guess not. Because I love Quincy Adams. He was one of the earliest advocates against slavery from a national standpoint in American history. So there's no misgivings to me about his role in this stuff. My favorite news story was back when yeah, big abolitionist. He was in the house with Lincoln. That was he really is like the only it was him and Van Buren that met Lincoln. Like they're the only two links between Lincoln and the founding fathers. When you say Franklin, are you talking about FDR or Pierce? Oh, Benjamin Franklin. Okay, I thought I was like nobody's a fan of Pierce. Pierce is one of the most despised, hated. Yeah, I knew after you wrote the second comment. Well, trust me, if I'm able to actually make some of these documentaries, I intend to do people who weren't present. I mean, next year is the centennial of Robert Kennedy's birth. And I thought what better time to do a full scale documentary on him and on Martin Luther King, because they're the two assassinated figures of that election year of 68. Then the year one of them turns 100. But yeah, those two and Ted Kennedy and um, there's and of course Strom. So it's really just a matter of trying to finish the ones I'm already doing and then going over to another one. Like I still can't get over that with Johnson. There's like maybe two more parts at most, and then the presidency is after that. It's crazy to think about. Well, anyway, Jim, do you have anything else left to say or not? Because I did have some things I was trying to do today, including sticking my foot out there and trying to, I guess, attempting giving it the old college try. Have a great week. Yeah, I'll be back on Saturday, and that'll be after hopefully a few more days of trying to get this stuff. I'm gonna attempt a different neighborhood because I just keep knocking, man. Dude, you have no idea how like dispirited I felt after Saturday. I was like, this is insane. Like people just they don't care. They don't give a damn, man. It's but I'm sure I'll make one more attempt or a few more attempts before I completely just seal myself off. Like I said, sell, sell, sell. But it's free. That's why it's so insane that they're like this. I told you, if there's one thing you can take away from this channel, from the stuff that's described here, it is that we live in the twilight zone. Every time I go outside my door, I hear like things are upside down in pretty much every way. But I'm gonna try to do one of the documentaries this week. Um, if I don't, because the FDR one is much closer to being done than the Johnson was, I'll probably go back to that one. But if I don't finish either of them, I'll give you some kind of update. So thanks for watching and have a good rest of your day.